And first of all, they maximize their operations, but they also minimize their standing price and cost that they have at the airport. And I always find that illustrations speak more than just telling you what they are, because with the examples we kind of all can imagine what are the things we could do in our businesses. Is there anything in there that can also inspire us? And this is the results that really came from our survey in November. And regarding the good news and the bad news for family businesses, many that are the same as what we saw for the Turkish family businesses, the concentration of ownership is a big competitive advantage, mainly because it helps you go over the fourth point there. You can choose how much investment and how much you put in R&D. For the company Firmenich that we've seen, or the Swatch Group, spend a huge proportion of their profits into R&D and new developments. They are something like 4 or 5 times what the other players in their industry would do. The long-term thinking helps, but might not help when we go to the 21st century innovation, which we will see. But what helps and what is happening in the 21st century is that change, while before we could have a generation, each generation could bring a change is happening at a really fast pace. And we cannot think about a generational shift in innovation. Change is continuous, and that's the impact of globalization and increased communication. And therefore, we need to do 2 things. We need to innovate for the short term, but we also need to innovate for the long term. If we want to have sustainability, we need to go there. But the short term is also important, and we need to do both. And that's where I think personally that family businesses have a strong advantage, because family businesses can master paradoxes. They can master opposites. They can master family and business. They don't do family or business. It's all mixed together, and it's 2 worlds that have nothing to do with one another. And they master a lot of different paradoxes, and therefore mastering short-term and long-term is a big thing that they have. They also have brand and reputation. Whatever new market, whatever innovation they bring into the market, they can, because they've been there for a long term, because they are a synonym for people who will be there in the long term and take responsibility for their product. Customers will be more willing to try their innovation and to trust their innovation and to go with them. They also are wonderful at human relationship and at creating networks, and that helps a lot when we talk about innovation. The bad news, of course, is the first one is success. It seems strange to say that the first bad news is success, but companies that have success, and a lot of family businesses have success, means that we become really protective of what we have. When we have success, we don't want to risk the success we have, and we don't want to change. And maybe being in that comfortable zone make it very difficult to change, and fear comes into play. The other negative advantage that family businesses have is the emotional attachment. While it is beautiful to be emotionally attached to the business you have and to feel that it's part of you, part of your identity, part of your history, it is also very difficult to either sell it or exit that market if you need to do so. And one thing that we know through research is that families hang on for too long to their businesses until it is way too late there. The disbelief, the other very negative advantage they have is the fixed asset. And when you have a production, if we take the example of the Swiss watches, you had hundreds of production lines, of machinery, of technical labor, of special molding machines, and that we're used to for that industry. It's a huge investment cost. It was a huge development cost, but a huge investment cost. So when you have to switch and say, I cannot use this anymore, I need to reinvest, I need to scrap my production line and reinvest into a new production line, it is really difficult to do. And families tend to be debt-free or close to debt-free, and to own all their production lines and all their assets. And that's not an advantage. It's an advantage when you have a financial crisis, but it's not an advantage for innovation. Okay. But enough of that. I think that what is really more important than look at the past and what companies have done in the past is really to understand what's happening, and that is happening today. And of course, when you're in a technical school, you're far more aware of the technical challenges and the novelties that are here. Nobody can predict the future. This is not new, but it is true. It remains true. Nobody knows what technology will be the best technology in 10 years from now. Nobody knows. If only we knew, it would be wonderful. But therefore, there is a need to make a bet and to take a risk in choosing one option versus another one. And the other thing is the pace of change. We have a lot of new technologies that are happening in the world, around the world. Some of them concern nanotechnologies that are going to impact quite a lot of the products that we do, whether, I don't know if any of you is in the textile industry, for instance, but there are lots of applications either in medicine, pharmaceutical, and the textile industry. There are a lot of new materials. There are some companies in the construction industry, a lot of new materials coming, luckily and beautifully, from recycled material that is extremely resistant, can carry extreme weights, and that is extremely light. And those will replace the current materials that we have. But all the research also about the brain and the human brain, that is impacting the knowledge we have about what kind of drugs help and don't help. Pharmaceutical sector will completely change. The medical sector will completely change based on this research, but also the way we apprehend a number of our industries as well. Any industry that had to do with taste and smell, any services that have to do with communication and technology will be impacted by that. And the change and the pace of change is different and radically different. Our brain cannot cope with disruptions, and that's why we try to offset them. Our brains think linear, okay? Our brains, and that's why family businesses are great. We are great at moving one step at a time, and we're great at seeing what is the new innovation, what is the next. The sustainability innovation is good, and most businesses are good at that because our brains can go there. Our brains cannot do the quantum leaps, and our brains cannot do the exponential change and see that change that we need to do. Yet we know, and you probably also confirm that, but there has been more scientific publications in the past 10 years than in the whole history of scientific publications. And this is only increasing. The fact that the world is global, the fact that we put all the research and all the elements together more and more, and that we communicate, just emulates that research. And that has a huge impact on what we do and what will happen in the future. Social media as well. Social media is a revolution for all types of industries. It's not just something that is great for our kids to have and to share on Facebooks, but any product you have, e-commerce, any product you sell, will be on social media. And that's why the barriers between countries will blur. You can sell hotels in China, or you can sell hotels in Russia or in Switzerland or in Turkey, and you can be anywhere in your bedroom and do that. A really important impact of social media there. So the only way we can really adapt to that is, first of all, create a culture where we make change normal. Change is an everyday routine. We need to think about change all the time. And we need to be curious. And I was very pleased yesterday when I took the Turkish Airlines flight to come here. There was an article in it. If you fly Turkish Airlines, read it. I think it is great, where it said that being curious is very often far more important than being intelligent. And it is true in many ways. Maybe you need to be intelligent to be curious as well. But be curious is really important, and be agile. And as an illustration of that, I have this wonderful animal there who seems to be so relaxed and so much like a family business. But as a matter of fact, it's really an animal that can speed up real fast and be very agile there. But I would like also to say that there are two more points where I find that family businesses are extremely well geared for innovation in the future. And the first one is the use of the family office. Families who have a certain side manage to set aside part of their wealth to reinvest in sectors that are different from their original sector. And this is a great pool of money that can serve to start up new companies, to create new ventures, and to maybe initiate the start of the businesses that will be the leading businesses in 20 or 30 years from now. The other one is the next generation. The next generation is so important. Yes, our next generations are more educated. Yes, they are more international. Yes, they speak more languages. But that's true all over the world. So it's not going to protect any country that we have that in our countries. It is all over. And the next generation are great for one thing, is that they can see and they know and they feel what are the businesses of the future. They are the future and they know what they want. So we need to be able to trust them there. But I also find that they need to have a special education in what a family business is and what do we need to have sustainable organizations for the future. It is really key. And all the technical innovation and being aware of what is happening is really important for them. So while 50 years ago, 60 years ago, we could take over a family business without having a special education in family business and in innovation and new technologies, I doubt that this is the case for the coming 20 to 30 or 40 years or 50 years to come. So really, really important, groom that next generation, but also give them the freedom to explore and to innovate for the company. Thank you.